revenge or repeat, the rematch this weekend between Mauricio Lara and Josh Warrington. If you haven't seen that fight, I suggest you go and check it out. It's on YouTube. It's a decent scrap with a very good finish for all you bloodthirsty boxing fans. Just to touch on the fight, the first fight that is, it was back in February, so about nearly 7 months have passed since then. But looking back, Josh Warrington was incredibly lucky that that fight wasn't stopped in the 4th round, because he was completely out of it. He was completely drunk. His legs were gone. And you also have to kind of question it even more when you consider that Howard Foster was the referee in that fight. And Howard Foster is responsible for one of the worst stoppages you'll ever see in British boxing. But nevertheless, he got out of the 4th round somehow and was stopped in the 9th round anyway. But something that really got to me was the fact that the Sky commentary, and Sky commentary is awful. I don't think that's really going to surprise anyone. But Adam Smith was quite puzzled at Josh Warrington's performance. And he was saying stuff, what's wrong with Josh Warrington? Why he just can't get going? Something must be wrong. And Adam, you're right. Something was wrong. What was wrong was that Josh Warrington was being hit upside the head as early as the 1st round. And that's not hyperbole. If you go back to that fight and you look at the 1st round, you'll see there are instances where Josh Warrington's legs are visibly stiffened by the shots of Lara. And so you could make the case that Josh Warrington was never in that fight in the first place. And since then, since losing to Lara, there have been some parallels made between Josh Warrington and Anthony Joshua, because Anthony Joshua also, he suffered a surprise defeat to Andy Ruiz. And so I can understand the rationale behind getting in contact with your countryman who also suffered a surprise defeat but was able to conclusively and decisively put on a dominant display in the rematch. I can understand the rationale. But people who kind of spin that narrative in some kind of hope for Josh Warrington, I think they're missing quite a bit in terms of context. Because when we compare the two matchups, we can see that Anthony Joshua has a clear size advantage, at least in terms of height and reach, over Ruiz, whereas Warrington doesn't have that over Lara. Anthony Joshua also has got very good technique and boxing IQ, especially over Andy Ruiz. Not to say that Ruiz is a slouch, but it's a clear advantage in Joshua's favour. But Warrington doesn't enjoy that same luxury over Lara either. And then you also consider that Joshua is a puncher. Josh Warrington isn't. Josh Warrington couldn't crack an egg. And look, that's no disrespect. It's just a fact. And the proof of that is in the first fight. Because Warrington was able to hit Mauricio Lara clean on several occasions and couldn't deter him in the slightest. Lara would actually grin through Warrington's shots and then hit him with his own, and then the punch would land and then Warrington would be all over the place. He had nothing to deter Lara with, no power. His defense isn't good. He's not a technician. He's not an athlete. And so because of these reasons, I sound like I'm ragging and I'm hating on Josh Warrington, but that's really not the case. I'm just describing what I see. And it's no disrespect. If anything, you really have to give Josh Warrington extra props because he's overachieving. This is someone who is not a puncher, who's not particularly, not much of a technician. He doesn't have a particularly high boxing IQ. And yet he's managed to get to world level and achieve, say, two notable wins over Lee Selby and Carl Frampton. So, credit to him. But let's just talk facts. Of course, it's an analysis and prediction. Personally, I can't see anything that saves Josh Warrington in this fight. And for that reason, I can see a repeat. And I can almost see this fight going identically to the first fight. So, and saying that, I do predict that Mauricio Lara will stop Josh Warrington around the same time he did in the first fight. I'm not sure of a round exactly. I'm just going to say round 8, 9 or 10. So, yeah, rounds 8 to 10. I can see Warrington coming out, probably being quite sharp. I'm sure he's trained very diligently and prepared accordingly for this fight. So probably be quite sharp, be quite speedy, maybe land a few counters, maybe even make Mauricio Lara look quite clumsy. But I just don't think that in the space of 7 months at this stage in his career, Josh Warrington will be able to add enough to his arsenal and expand it enough for him to have loads of tools to rely on to get the job done. We did see Anthony Joshua almost reinvent himself for the Ruiz rematch, but as I've outlined, Joshua had several advantages over Ruiz, advantages that Josh Warrington doesn't enjoy over Mauricio Lara. Josh Warrington, to give a brief profile of him, as I say, he's not a puncher, he's not a technician, he's not much of a talent in terms of athleticism, he's not that dynamic. He's just a kind of energetic, well-conditioned guy who relies on high volumes of punches and winning every minute of every round, or at least trying to, and basically out-hustling his opponents. And you can't afford to fight that way against the Mexican fighter, because if you look at the kind of stereotypical Mexican style, they fight like that as well. They have high volumes of punches. They're very energetic, very well conditioned. But the thing is about Mexican fighters is they have all that, and they typically know how to punch, and punch hard as well. We know about the Mexican spirit and the Mexican heart. And Josh Warrington, to his credit, in the first fight did show a lot of heart too, because he was getting buzzed as early as the first round. He looked like he was completely out of it in the fourth, and he still went to the ninth. He never gave in. So big respect to Josh Warrington. But as I say, just being real, I just can't see him winning this fight for the reasons I've outlined. And so I'm pretty comfortably, I'd be very shocked if I'd be shocked if this even went to points, to be honest. I have to come clean. I'd be very, very surprised if that happened. So I'd be surprised if Warrington won. I'd be surprised even if it went to points. So I'm quite firmly and quite confidently picking Mauricio Lara to win by stoppage in rounds 8 to 10. So yeah, that is my prediction for this fight. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you agree with me, disagree with me, let me know your opinion on this fight. If you could like this video, share this video, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, I will catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.